What's up, horror fans? Pete here from the Laughter Cat, where me and my good friend over there, Dr. Zayas God, Danny Torkel, discuss horror movies and streaming shows. One topic that comes up on this channel often is our appreciation or lack of appreciation for Osgood Perkins. So today we are going to be discussing Keeper, which just came out in 2025. We're going to see if it is going to make any top 10 lists on the Lastercast. I'm kind of guessing it's not going to make Danny's top 10.
I wasn't the biggest fan. I thought this was one of my bigger disappointments of the year. And with that being said, I didn't dislike or hate the movie at all. I just felt like this was a middle of the road 6 out of 10. Uh, and I thought that I mean, the biggest problem for me with this movie is there's really cool shit in it. And by the time we got to that really cool shit, I was bored
Yeah.
uh, and just completely taken out of it by the two lead characters. Um, Only one of which I even thought was really good in this movie. Tatiana Maslany was excellent in this movie, and I thought it felt for a lot of this movie, it felt like she was playing against a brick wall. Um,
Jesus.
Rossif Sutherland, who's the son of Donald Sutherland,
Right.
uh, he and I'm not. I don't think he's a bad actor. I've seen him in other things. He was in Orphan First Kill, and I thought he was good in that movie. I don't think necessarily that this was a case for me of being like, oh my god, this actor is terrible.
Yeah.
I feel like he was playing the role exactly how Oz Perkins wanted.
Yeah.
Um, and my issue with Oz Perkins is he's a very atmospheric director. He's a very slow burn director. And I'm fine with slow burn. Some of my favorite horror movies, some of my favorite movies in general are slow burn films. I feel like he toes the line sometimes where slow burn does become boring. I went back and just double checked his filmography. The Black Coat's Daughter, which was his first film, I thought that is a really good slow burn movie. And I'm looking at the list of his movies, and I'm like, I think that might be for me his best movie. I
Okay.
did not see I Am the Pretty Thing That Lives in the Dark or Lives in the House. But I've heard from people who have seen it that it's very slow, and like almost too slow. Gretel and Hansel was a very weird movie because I remember
Yeah.
seeing it and feeling like it went from act one and then just got to act three. And there was like no middle ground. And I thought it was the rare case where I wanted the movie to go 20 minutes longer because it just felt like it ended right as it was getting good.
Yeah.
Long Legs is a movie that we talked about a lot on this channel. I know you liked it a lot more than I did.
Yeah.
I think it's a movie that has some really great scenes. It has for better or worse, a memorable Nick Cage performance. Um, but I think there's a few plot holes in that movie, and the ending really bothers me. Both times I've seen it, the ending annoys me, and I think it's uh, a movie that I feel got very overrated and overhyped.
Okay.
And then The Monkey was just kind of like a fun little disposable horror movie. I almost feel like I would like to see more monkey type movies from him. Like, oh, here's a Stephen King toy that leads to incredibly violent, almost over the top, hilarious death scenes. And
Yeah.
like, it that felt like he was having fun.
Yes.
Keeper feels like he's not having fun. And
Yeah.
and I feel like the problem for me, and maybe this is him, maybe this is writer Nick Leopard. Um, these two lead characters for me, the movie is about a couple who goes to a cabin in the woods, his like family cabin, and we are supposed to believe from the opening scenes that this is like a woman who doubts her love life, and she's been with this guy for a year, and she's like can't believe how much she's in love with him. And there was not 1 second of this movie that I even believed she liked this person, let alone was in love with him.
Yes.
And there was not 1 second of the movie where I felt that Rosie Sutherland came across as anything other than creepy guy who wants to lure his girlfriend into the woods so he can kill her. And that
Yes.
completely took me out of the movie because instead of that being the 30-minute setup for an hour of crazy shit, it was the 1 hour and 10-minute setup for 25 minutes of crazy shit. And by the
Right.
time we got to that crazy shit, I was just like, "Ugh." Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
you
All
liked
right.
it more than me. So what?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Well, you put your sack on the table. Now it's time for me to unpack it, just like the cake in the box that's put on the table here. But all right, here we go. Here we go. I've seen 3 Osgood Perkins movies. The Keeper, The Monkey. I just saw The Monkey last night, and Longlegs. The end of Longlegs, I felt, is like pretty absurd, right? What ends up going down at the very end of the movie, like the climax of the movie. And then I feel like The Monkey is essentially that absurdity for an entire film. And it's tense because you're expecting violence to happen throughout the entire Monkey movie, but it feels so different from Keeper and Longlegs because Keeper and Longlegs have this sort of on edge kind of feeling because you don't know what's going to happen. And his use of the frame is always very interesting to me. The way he sets up his shots, because his shots, in a way, make you feel unnerved because you're not sure where something's going to come from. And this movie was very tense for me in the middle, but then he does this cardinal sin, which you mentioned to me in our discussion already, like off screen, that basically there's this big, huge exposition dump at the end of this movie, which to me takes the wind out of the sails for the movie. I 100% agree with you that it feels that there's no chemistry between this romantic couple and that this guy's supposed to be charming, and I feel like he's not charming at all. Like there's no evidence to be like, oh, I understand why she's into this guy. It's very much like in the Star Wars prequels, where like Anakin and Obi-Wan will be like, oh, we're such good friends, or oh, we had so many adventures together, but you don't fucking see it, right? You just hear people saying how they're in a couple or they care about each other so much, but you don't see the chemistry. All you see is the awkwardness. And that could be a choice by Osgood Perkins to have them verbally say they're in this couple that they want to be with each other, but then it seemed like they actively disliked each other throughout this entire film.
Yeah.
I'm not going to give this movie a glowing review. I don't think this is an amazing movie. I will say though that in the middle, it was very tense for me in the theater watching it. Going back to what I was saying about his use of space and the way he sets up shots. When you have a film where you're not sure what the creature is, what the threat is, and you like you don't know if it's a mental thing or if it's a physical thing, if it's a demon, when you have that kind of scenario, then you're on edge more because you're like, oh shit, it could happen anywhere. Anything could become scary. And I wasn't sure what this was until that big exposition dump. And so there's shots in this movie where you're like looking, like there's a staircase like in the middle of the shot, and you're like looking underneath the staircase, you're looking above the staircase. There's all these weird angles. There's one part where Tatiana Maslany is like standing in front of a shower curtain. I'm like, oh fuck. She's gonna pull that shower curtain back. There's gonna be something right there. That kind of on edge feeling where something could jump out at you at any point was really strong. But then once Rossif Sutherland admits to like what is going on, I was like, ah, and it took it all away. And that's when the fucking creepiest visual shit happens. But to me, the strength of the movie was not knowing what was going on and then the weird stuff. And I want to talk about specific beats with you. Like there's one part that's very David Lynch. Can you tell me what part you think that is?
Oh God.
I know you've seen it a while ago, so I mean, I could just fucking say it instead of playing games. Like, basically, there's this like woman who I don't know what country she's from, but she's some other like she's like Russian or something. And at one point, Tatiana Maslany is in this cabin by herself, and she turns around. This woman's there, and then there's like a regular sized version of the woman, and there's a smaller sized version of the woman, and her face is all distorted.
Yeah, I
like,
can see that as David Lynch.
Right, and I was like, what the fuck am I looking at? What does this mean? That's intriguing. I like when I don't know what's going on and it's weird. I mean, that's why I love David Lynch, right? There's a lot of that in the middle, but then there's this exposition dump, and then as soon as that happened, it just like fucking made, got rid of my boner right there.
Yeah,
right.
You're talking about like the way they set up the shots, and I actually wrote down the cinematographer's name, Jeremy Cox, because I do like a lot of the way that the movie was filmed. I like the isolation of this cabin. The architecture of the cabin is very strange. And I liked how like parts of the cabin are like pitch black, but other part like how like there's only one door that locks in the house and it's the bathroom, so she has to like keep retreating to the bathroom. There's like a basement with like a dark staircase, and you're like, oh, that's a great horror trope. The movie kept falling apart for me when like if the movie was they go to this cabin and weird stuff is happening subtly for 45 minutes to an hour, that then sets us up for that last, couple of, last third of the movie, I would have liked it. But it just feels like there's all of these setups that feel over the top. Like there's the cake, there's the brother, the cousin who turns out to be the brother who shows up. Or right, he's a cousin.
Yeah,
yeah,
that's what they say he is, but he's the brother. Yes.
So he just shows up, and then you have that scene with this weird, and then so it's like these things that I almost get the feeling that Oz Perkins, he kind of envisions these weird scenes that he thinks would make great horror movie scenes, and then he constructs a plot backwards to get to those scenes.
I can see that. Yeah,
where, I mean, he probably like envisions, and like I guess we'll talk full spoilers. The movie's out in theaters. Is it coming to Shudder? I'm not sure. I maybe I'm thinking of something else. But the movie's out in theaters now. If you don't want the movie completely spoiled, tune out. But I feel like it's one of those things where you have these visions of these incredible creature beings that come out at the end of the movie, and you're like, whoa, those are scary. now I have to figure out how to make a movie where they're in the movie.
Right.
Luckily, I just watched Evil Dead, so I'll put it in a cabin in the woods. And, it, there's so many cool, like the image, like the David Lynchian scene you're talking about. There's a whole bunch of those scenes where like
Right.
she's alone in the house, she turns around and there's like a woman with a bag on her head sitting in the
Right.
kitchen. And
Right.
you're like, whoa, like what the fuck? She's like laying in the bath and like a ghostly thing draws a heart on the mirror on the glass window behind her while she's in the bath.
Right.
There's this great scene where she's looking out the window and she sees the cabin next door and then she looks at the trash and she sees like the head of the woman in the trash.
Right.
And you're like, what? Like, there's all this like crazy, great imagery
Right.
and really cool shots and like stuff that should be scary. It's just that the setup for this movie is characters who, you know, are supposed to be in love. He leaves her there. It I don't know. It just he was so unbelievable and not like unbelievably great. I mean like not believable
Yeah.
as a romantic lead. And
Right.
maybe that's Osgood Perkins just casting. Maybe that was his intention. Like
Right.
but if that was his intention, it didn't work for me and it really hurt the movie.
Right. See,
I
that's the whole
almost
thing.
and this will be the last thing I say. I promise. I feel like this is almost the opposite of Skinamarink, where I feel like that movie would have been great as like a 15-minute short film or a 30-minute short film that just focused on like the kid in the house with the little telephone, and you're like, what the fuck is going on? And then 30 minutes and the movie's over. For me, this would have worked better as a 30-minute short of like guy brings girl to a cabin in the woods, leaves her alone, and there's like haunted entities in the house that are going after her. And
Yeah.
that would have been great. But like stretched out for an hour and 40 minutes, I was like, this just didn't hit it for me.
Right. Right. No, I look, dude, I totally agree. We keep going back to Rossif Sutherland, and it's funny because he's like Kiefer Sutherland's half brother, Donald Sutherland's son. And for the longest time, I was like, is this guy doing a voice? Like it felt like his voice didn't match his body. And I don't know, maybe that's just the way the actor is, but I was like, it was like off-putting. And I was thinking that maybe it was like a choice by Osgood Perkins, right? But there are scenes, like you said, that like really stand out. Since we're in spoilers, I want to talk about how like his cousin shows up at the cabin when he's gone, and there's tension with her and the cousin. She locks herself in the bathroom. At one point, as the audience member, we're seeing his like head is like severed but hanging on like a thread, and it's being carried up the stairs, and you're like, what the fuck is that? I was so tense in that moment, right? But I do think there's something to what you're saying about the whole maybe he has these like set piece ideas and then he wraps the plot around it. But we got to take into account that this is written by a different guy too, right? It's written by this Nick Leopard guy, and I'm always wondering the relationship of a movie that we're reviewing in relationship to other horror movies, right? Because there's two movies that I thought about a lot when I watched this. I thought about the Night House with what's her name? Not Rebecca
Rebecca.
Ferguson. Rebecca, not Ferguson. It's whatever. You know what I'm
Hall.
talking about.
Rebecca
Rebecca
Hall.
Hall. Thank you. Thank you. I thought of the Night House because it's like they're in this place that has kind of weird architecture. There's a building that's across the way that is like similar to it. That's just like the Night House. There's like weird stuff that you can't explain. I mean, I thought the Night House was scarier, and I liked the Night House more than this. But I kept thinking of the Night House when I watched this, especially like when she saw the head in the trash, right? Then what the fuck was there was one other movie where I was like, oh, this is just like this other movie too. But god damn it. I, I there was something with like the fuck. Oh, yes, thank you. Danny, didn't we cover a movie called Watchers with like It was
Oh,
Shyamalan's
that was
daughter.
the M. Night Shyamalan produced, his daughter directed movie.
Right,
Yeah.
right. So Night House kind of had the boyfriend killer kind of angle to it, and then Watchers had these sort of like fey kind of creatures in the wood, kind of like elongated creature kind of thing. So I kept thinking about those two movies when I watched this, and I was like, is this in response to those two movies? Like, are they influenced by those movies and doing their own take here? Um, and there's I mean, this movie I liked more than Watchers, but I did not like it as much as Night House. And
Yeah.
I mean, my last thing I'll say is that I just the exposition dump. It's like it's so much better where you're like, oh, is she losing her mind? Is she like mentally ill? Like, because I did think that for a while too. Like, you know, when she was eating that cake, like just like ravaging the cake, I was like, oh, is there something weird about her? Because like when you watch the trailer for this movie, there's two trailers and there's two very distinct trailers. The first trailer is like there could be something wrong with either of them and you don't know. It's like there's something wrong with their relationship and you don't know, is the guy the crazy one, is the woman the crazy one. The second trailer is more like, oh, there's some weird fucking creatures here, watch out for these creatures. And I feel like those two trailers represent the movie. There's the first half where you're like, what's going on? Is she crazy or is he a creep? Then the second half is no, he's a creep, and it's because he's sold his soul to these like woodland creatures. So I don't know. You gave it a rating before. You gave it a 6 out of 10. I think I would maybe give it a 6.5 out of 10.
The movies that I thought of when I was watching this were Fresh and Barbarian.
Fresh, yes.
Because
Good.
and I'll give you like Fresh was one of my favorite movies when it came out. I think it was a Hulu original. And that was Sebastian Stan, and I forgot the name of the actress, but she was excellent in the movie. And what I loved about that movie is that if you didn't watch a trailer for it, if you didn't know when you clicked play that you were watching a horror film, the first 30 minutes is an adorable rom-com.
Right.
And it then becomes what it becomes. Barbarian, again, if it has a different title and you don't know what you're watching, the first 30 minutes feels really it could go in either direction. It could be a Bill Skarsgård as a serial killer and who's trying to lure this woman in, or is this a romantic comedy about two mismatched people who accidentally double book a Airbnb? You know,
Right.
and it turns into actually option 3, which was interesting, for good and for bad. This movie, again, the crux of it is a relationship that is the least viable relationship in the world. And I, the movie goes on. They have these incredibly awkward moments. And again, like, if this, I feel like, again, this is the script maybe sabotaging itself when you say that this couple has been together for a year. They cannot act like this. And I feel like Tatiana Maslany's character, Liz, can't still be on the phone with her friend, being like, yeah, he invited me to his cabin. You've been together for a fucking year.
Yeah.
I feel like if one single change, if it was like, you've been together for 2 months, you think you should be going away to a cabin in the woods? What if he's a serial killer?
Yes.
That simple interaction, I think, would have completely changed my view on the movie. Like,
Yes.
it felt like this guy Malcolm had never had sex with this woman, and that I'm sorry, they had zero chemistry. They had
Right.
zero physical chemistry.
Right.
I'm not even sure if they like actually kiss in the movie. And I'm like, if I'm together with a woman for a year and we're going to a secluded cabin in the woods, like we be fucking.
Yeah.
And
Going to
and
Pound
like
Town. Huh?
and it just and like it just felt like this was a new couple that was going away on their first trip, and everything is still so awkward with them. And and then, like, after an hour of like all of these really cool things that we're talking about, these Lynchian moments, these like really cool shots, this like illusion that the horror is there, he just kind of walks in and spends 7 minutes on like a flashback. Like, it's the like I literally, I want you to know, Pete, I thought of you because one of the threads on our channel is how much you hate exposition dumps.
Yep.
And I literally sat there and I went, oh my God, like, Pete's gonna fucking hate this. I
I
can't believe,
did.
I
I
can't
did.
believe, but like, I also couldn't believe what I was watching. Like,
Yeah.
a character over an hour into the movie literally took the other lead character on a flashback to his childhood to explain what was happening. And I
Yes.
couldn't believe that a guy, it felt like for a second I was watching a really good effort by a first time horror director, first time writer director who like didn't know what not to do in his horror movies.
Wow. Okay.
And for Oz Perkins, who just last year had the horror world at his fingertips with Long Legs. Uh, but then again, you think about Long Legs, there's a lot of exposition in that movie. You
There
know,
is.
now granted, it's done in a way that is a lot more unique, like the opening scene where Longlegs shows up to the little girl's house. We don't know who that is yet. And then there's like the flashbacks are really like the main character kind of like putting together pieces of like things that happened in her life and going like, oh my God. And also, like, I feel like this movie and Longlegs are kind of related in a way where it's like Micah Monroe's character, she's not just a detective. She's been intimately involved with Longlegs like her entire life.
Yeah.
And then again, heavy spoilers, it turns out that like the monsters in this cabin are like the offspring or like versions of like Tatiana Maslany's like a character of hers from the past. Like
Yeah.
it was so like does Malcolm not realize while he's dating this woman for a year that she looks exactly like the pregnant um witch in the woods thing that him and his brother shot for fun as kids? Like
Right.
I literally feel stupid describing this out loud.
Right. Right.
I, and it's really a shame because the last 20 minutes of this movie have some of the coolest and most interesting and most new looking monster demon mythology beings that I
Right.
feel like have been on screen this year. And
Yeah.
like and I feel like you could take screenshots from this movie and you could do Google images of this movie and be like, look at the fucking visual effects in this movie. Look at the makeup effects of this movie. There's a thing at the end with like eyes all over that was so fucking cool. And I
Yep.
was and I'm like sitting in a movie theater with like two other people and I'm almost angry watching these like incredibly haunting images. And I'm
Yeah.
almost angry that I'm like, this is what I came here for. And now they're on screen. And I'm so uninterested because of
Yep.
everything that happened beforehand.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of funny because I think that we took different routes to get to this point. Because I think I liked the beginning more than you did, but we ultimately ended up with the same conclusion. We ultimately were just kind of like let down. And yes, those creatures, especially that one that had like the different mouths and the eyes and stuff, and it was sort of like laughing and screaming along with Tatiana Maslany. That was like really disturbing to watch. But then it was
Yeah.
also kind of like, okay, well, this is it though. This is the end of the story, you know.
I
So, go
and
ahead.
like it, I don't even feel like we even explained what it is. Where it's like, I guess him and his brother have been feeding women to this like to these beings, and
Yeah,
but now it's like the women. So it's like they view her as a mother, and then she like decides she's gonna live in the house and take care of them at the end, and she's like become a supernatural being. It has way too many ideas for the movie that it's in. It
yeah,
should have been a completely different movie to get to that like conclusion. And yeah, I feel like I talked myself down from a 6 to like a 5.
oh,
I'm not it,
yeah,
like, and again, I made a point on Facebook when I posted my review of this that like I feel like people treat Osgood Perkins like he's like the next big thing in horror. And Chris's response was, "Oh, all I see are people who shit on him." And I'm like, "Well, I don't know, but I'm looking at his filmography and I'm like, he makes interesting movies, but I'm not sure if he makes really good movies. I think he made one really great movie, his first film, The Black Coat's Daughter, which if you've not seen it, I think it's on Tubi
okay,
for free. Long Legs is a movie that I think garnered him a lot of like attention because of Nicolas Cage and because of like some like crazy scenes that are in it. But yeah, like I look at there's so many young upcoming like voices in horror today.
yeah,
Um and I don't know where Osgood Perkins fits in that. I will say this has been a very strange year for horror for me because two of the movies that I felt were going to be two of the movies I was most excited to see and that I thought were like locks to end up on my top 10, I ended up walking out of with a very similar feeling of like that was it. Like
right.
and it's this and it's weapons. And
Oh,
I know I am deeply in the minority on weapons. Because most of the people I know absolutely love it. Um but yeah, like I had a lot of issues with that movie as well. I thought it was incredibly tonally inconsistent. And yeah, like I just keep coming back to like Sinners. Sinners is
oh,
just like the one movie that I walked in. I was like, I need this movie to be great, and it far exceeded every expectation I could have possibly had.
right.
And now it's like it's almost the end of the year, and I'm like, I don't even know if I have 10 movies
Oh
yet.
shit.
So we'll
Yeah.
see what happens. But yeah, if anybody's watching this and you saw Keeper, where do you fall on it? And what are your thoughts on Osgood Perkins as a director overall? Because I don't know.
Yes. Yes, that's a very Dan on the fan, under the fan kind of question. And so, yeah, let us know in the comments. Make sure that you guys subscribe as well. We can always use a like as well. Danny, what do we got on the channel besides this video right here?
We are covering it. Welcome to Derry on HBO Max. We have reviews of episodes 1, 2, 3, and 4. Episode 5 drops tonight. We're recording this on Sunday. And also tonight is the season finale of the Talamasca, the Anne Rice Immortal Universe show on AMC and AMC Plus. We just reviewed episodes 4 and 5 of that. So that'll be up on the channel this week. And yeah, aside from that, we have a bunch of short reviews. I think we're going to be covering some Shudder. Speaking of 2025 horror movies, there's a few movies I want to check out on Shudder. Good Boy, the Does the Dog Die horror movie of 2025, and what's the other one? Oh, Abraham's Boys, which is a new Dracula universe vampire movie that I'm interested in checking out.
Yeah, man. Yeah, so yeah, guys, definitely subscribe to the channel. We're here for you. We love making videos for you. And if we take you guys to the cabin in the woods, we'd be fucking.